So one of the things that is always a mystery to me is how Spirit shows up when Robert asked me to speak on Sunday morning. So I want to welcome our virtual audience. We've gone live on our YouTube channel and Facebook. The scary thing sometimes is I know that this video recording lives on the internet forever. And I imagine some of my videos, there's not a lot, but a few from my other Sunday talks, that probably I have a few more wrinkles and maybe my hair is a different color. But you know what? That's just change. And aren't we all about transformation and change in this teaching? So I want to welcome our virtual audience as well as all of our dedicated folks that show up in person to celebrate life together. So part of the talk notes, because I'm actually following the notes for a change, I always listen for Spirit's guidance because I really believe when we connect deeply with Spirit, Spirit gives the talk through me. So it isn't my ego and my mind talking, it's Spirit moving into that universal truth that we all need to be reminded of. And on the way out the door, my eye came across a book in my bookshelf, and I decided that part of the talk today required an opening story. So let me give you part of the introduction. As you know, our theme for the year is Open at the Top. So every center is guided by this Open at the Top theme for 2026. March's theme is What If? And I love that phrase, what if? But what ifs can also scare us if we fill it with what if, a disaster happens or something goes wrong? But what if something wonderful happens? So this theme of what if, we're focusing today on the topic traveling in a world of my creation. And the world that we're talking about is our inner world. So how the saying goes, so within, so without, something like that. But it really is about what we think, what we tell ourselves. So I want to open with a story from Maya Angelou's book, Wouldn't Take Nothing for My Journey Now. It was just something that I really resonated with. So she writes, when my grandmother was raising me in Stamps, Arkansas, she had a particular routine when people who were known to be whiners entered her store. Whenever she saw a known complainer coming, she would call me from whatever I was doing and say conspiratorially, "Sister, come inside, come." Of course I would obey. My grandmother would ask the customer, "How are you doing today, Brother Thomas?" And the person would reply, "Not so good." There would be a distinct whine in the voice. "Not so good today, Sister Henderson. You see, it's this summer heat. I just hate it. Oh, I hate it so much, it just frazzles me up and frazzles me down. I just hate the heat, it's almost killing me." Then my grandmother would stand stoically, her arms folded, and mumble, "Uh-huh, uh-huh." And she would cut her eyes at me to make certain that I had heard the lamentation. At another time, a whiner would mule, "I hate plowing. That packed down earth ain't got no reasoning, and mules ain't got good sense. Sure ain't. It's killing me. I can't even seem to get done. My feet and my hands stay sore, and I get dirt in my eyes and up my nose. I just can't stand it." And my grandmother, again stoically with her arms folded, would say, "Uh-huh, uh-huh." and then look at me and nod. As soon as the complainer was out of the store, my grandmother would call me to stand in front of her. And then she would say the same thing she had said at least 1,000 times, it seemed to me. Sister, did you hear what brother so-and-so or sister much to do complained about? You heard that, and I would nod. Mama would continue, sister, there are people who went to sleep all over the world last night, poor and rich, white and black, but they will never wake up again. Sister, those who expected to rise did not. Their beds became their cooling boards, and their blankets became their winding sheets. And those dead folks would give anything at all for just 5 minutes of this weather or 10 minutes of that plowing that person was grumbling about. So you watch yourself about complaining, sister. What you're supposed to do when you don't like a thing is change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. Don't complain. That kind of is this talk in a nutshell, because complaining opens the door for victimness. And complaining is the verbal expression of our thinking. So part of the 3 points in this talk really is talking about traveling in our inner world in a way that we wake up and become very aware of that self-talk and those thoughts before they ever come out our mouth. So 3 points that we'll cover. 1, reclaim desires as divine impulse. 2, practice unity without uniformity. And 3, curate kinder inner climate. So we're going to go into these 3 points, and each one will have a call to action or a suggestion that you might choose to adopt this week. So first, as part of traveling in the world of my creation, my inner world, the first point is reclaim your desire as divine impulse. And I don't mean the ego saying, I want this, I want that. I mean longing. What is life calling you to do, be, or have? It's that desiring. Desire is not a bad thing. It lets us know we're still alive, that we're still wanting to expand and express more livingness. We all have a longing to be safe, to be seen, to be valued, and to feel free to express ourselves fully with whatever innate gifts and talents are ours. When I was 27, I got a job with the IRS as an Internal Revenue agent, as many of you know. I was the second female back in the 70s that was hired in that Fresno office. And I'm telling you, those fellas were not too happy with me. They didn't like my perfume. They didn't like the way I dressed. I never went to coffee with them because they talked about sports, and I didn't know one sport from the other, so, why bother? But I told myself, I am meant to be here. It took me 10 years of night school to get my college degree. To qualify for that job, I earned my way there, my place. So when one of the fellas said, you've taken some man's job, I said, I'm meant to be here. I've worked hard for this place, for this job. And it turned into such a blessing because I was able to be a soccer mom, do PTA, bake cookies, and show up at church, because I could schedule my audit work around my own calendar and my own vacation leave. And what was lovely about it was I got paid the same amount as everybody else in the office. So what was lovely was it was like a job made in heaven, even though the first 6 months I went home with stomach aches because it was stressful. Every time I knocked on somebody's door, because I was a field agent, they'd go, "You're Peterson?" Because that was my first husband's name. I said, "Yes." And I'd flash my credentials, my badge, and they go, "Oh, okay." And what was amazing to me was when you practice kindness and communicate well, there's very little friction. And many times I found that people would get scared. And so my job was to calm them down and to say, you know, the reason I'm here is not that you're bad or you've done something wrong or broken the law. You know, part of my job is to educate too, because we only audit so many returns a year, and your business came up. So I learned a lot of people skills and how to keep the water smooth and to keep on keeping on, because I knew they wanted me to get out of their hair as fast as possible. Because it's sort of like going to the dentist. Nobody really likes to go, but they go because, you know, that's part of good hygiene. Well, the same with an IRS audit. You know, when your number comes up, it's like nobody's going away. So you stay the course. What I was reflecting on, though, over time, because I was 27, and my kids were young, and it was my first, quote, really important, high challenging job. I didn't realize that after 10 years, I really hated auditing because they lock you in these little audit closets and tell you nobody in the office talks to that person. They're the enemy. So don't pass out any free information. So it was very isolating. And as an extrovert, I like people, I like interacting. And the job became so not me that I volunteered for everything under the sun in terms of special assignments so that I wouldn't have to do audits. So what happened was, the universe always provides. I got a special assignment to the training branch to facilitate quality improvement teams, and I loved it. And my mentor in the office was finishing his master's degree in organization development. He said, "Why don't you enroll in that program?" So I went home and I told Richard, I want to go to school, and I'm going to be working full-time in San Jose on this temporary assignment. He just rolled his eyes and said, "Okay, we'll get a second mortgage to finance your $15,000 tuition for the program," because I didn't know where the money was going to come from. And lo and behold, 18 months later, I finished the program, going to night school one night a week from 6 to 10 o'clock, loving every minute of it because it was so fascinating. You know, group dynamics and go figure, statistics. But the way organizations operate, they're sort of like human beings. They have a life cycle. And to work in a big bureaucracy and actually do my master's directed study on culture change was a match made in heaven. Everything dovetailed perfectly. So when we're in synchronicity with our desires, we never know how the universe is going to plop those doorways that lead you to a greater sense of your own creative expression. But because of that, I got a promotion, I left the exam division, and the IRS created the first ever organization development job description in the country for me. And I'm thinking, wow, it doesn't get much better than this. I get to travel and work all over the country with lots of different department heads, lots of different employees, And they even paid for my executive coaching training. Now go figure. I couldn't have planned that career development any better. The universe, when you're in a place of flow and joy and what you're expressing as your unique desire, it just is absolutely amazing. So, age 58, I take a buyout and I leave because they abolished my department. Well, who'd have thought they paid me to leave? So I tithed on my $25,000 buyout, said bye-bye to IRS, and tithed to create the sign on this building. And when we then merged and changed from religious science to Centers for Spiritual Living, we had to calculate the letters, the new letters we needed to move around. But we didn't have to buy too many new letters to get Centers for Spiritual Living. But that was pretty cool. And you know what I am amazed at is when we are clear with what we desire, the universe just slides it right in. There's this synchronicity and serendipity that happens, and I have daily evidence of being blessed and good coming onto the planet in the form of my tadas, whatever they may be, small and large, because I firmly believe in gathering demonstrations. But that means we need to be awake and to have a discipline to document it, to say, yes, this is true, because it deepens my faith. So the 30 years that I've been practicing this teaching, 20 of it as a practitioner, I know that when we pay attention to our desires, our callings, our larger purpose, that we are meant to express and expand. So know that part of that inner journey is tuning into those desires and what quickens in you, large and small, because it's your unique gift. So take a baby step towards a real desire, whatever is quickening in you now. Second point on this inner traveling journey. Unity requires conformity to principles like dignity, safety, fairness, but it is not equal to uniformity or sameness. So if you find yourself comparison is the enemy of learning, that we are each unique and gifted with talents, with inner beauty that expresses in your unique way. Honor that. This holy variety of oneness on the planet is an amazing way to view people, because everyone has some special spark in them that brings themselves to life. Bless the difference within and know that everybody has their own stories, histories, strengths, challenges. We have the capacity to bless that difference and know that the greatest connection we can have with people we don't agree with or are not like us is our opportunity to stay curious and listen. Because in the listening, we find that oneness, that unifying principle of dignity and integrity in each person. We may differ in our opinions or in the shaping of our lives, but we are all part of this humanity. So stay curious. Widen your circle with the act of inclusion, particularly with those that kind of rub you the wrong way. It's a wonderful calling to practice connection. And then finally, curate a kinder inner climate. And by that I mean, is your critic in your inner committee going overtime? Do you find yourself saying you're not good enough, or why aren't you more X, Y, or Z, or you shoulda, woulda, coulda? If so, fire that committee member in your head and hire a better one. So self-awareness of your self-talk shapes our world like the whiner complainer. Do we want to be a victim, or do we want to be victorious over our thoughts? So the what if challenge is, let's get a bigger, grander idea. What if the entire planet absorbed a larger calling to peace, compassion, love, even though there are differences? What would our world look like? So I know that we are on the cusp of something great, because in the middle of all of this stuff happening on the planet, I really believe that there is greater good that is merging out of it. More activism, more involvement, more caring about our democracy, more awareness around access to education, to health care, to better quality food. All the basics of life that we appreciate as a given living in these United States. You know, I really bless my food preparation, because I think about all the hands that have grown it, packed it, delivered it, displayed it in the grocery store before it ever reaches my table. How many places in our country can you walk down a grocery store aisle and see a sea of cereal? I mean, every brand under the sun. Or a produce section that has mostly stuff grown in this Salinas Valley that's fresh. You know, we have so many blessings that we take for granted. And living in this country, I think travel helps us broaden that appreciation, because not every country has the same accoutrements, whatever that may be. Paved roads, sewer systems, underground electricity, cell phone towers, you name it, whatever we've got here that we take for granted. There are many places that don't have that live in deserts where there is not sufficient clean water, or sufficient food, or lack of educational opportunities. And I know that for me, growing up as an Asian American, a third generation, my mother and father really emphasized getting an education, because knowledge is power, and knowledge applied becomes experience. And with experience, you grow and become a greater gift in the world, because we are always meant to expand. So my third request is steady your self-talk with self-reflection. Ask every evening, did my thoughts widen my circle? Was I more inclusive? Did I learn something today? Was I curious rather than disagreeing? You know, think about being vigilant with your self-talk. And if you find yourself whining or complaining, what do? Take a deep breath, like 4-4-6. Breathe in to the count of 4. Hold to the count of 4. and release to the count of 6. And in that pause, we can reframe a better idea, a better self-talk. Even if it's only to say, there's nothing I need to do today. I'm good enough the way I am. God made good stuff in me. So I choose to live from a place most of the time of peace, kinder to myself, kinder to others, and also to be tuned in to that still small voice that calls us to a greater sense of whatever the livingness in you is meant to be or to do or to have. So what I want to conclude with is to remind you that we are spiritual beings belonging to a vast, intelligent love. Let this truth honor our inner world. Desire is a divine nudge to blossom. Unity does not demand sameness. Honor the difference as a holy design. Mind is our outlet for creative intelligence. So let's cultivate within a pattern that expresses kindness. So to recap, commit to one or all 3 of these little tips. Honor one real longing with a baby step. Widen your circle with an act of inclusion. Steady your self-talk with an affirmation of guidance and worth. Tend to your sanctuary within, clear, kind, and expectant. Choices, relationships, and communities shift the more vigilant we are with our own observer and our own awareness of shifting, so that we continue to expand into the good and expect the best. So the world we inhabit will begin to mirror the world we are consciously creating within. So pick 1, 2, or 3 of these calls to action and try them out for the week. I think you will find that as you dedicate yourself to a disciplined awareness of that self-talk and the intuitive quickening in your desires, that Spirit is tickling you and saying, come on, let's have some more fun. Let's live more fully, because it's nature's way of really being authentic and real. So when you leave today, no whining about the time change. Let's go out into nature and notice beauty in all its creative forms. They don't worry about the things we worry about. They just bloom and blossom and grow the way their DNA was meant to do. So Muffin had our little 2-year-old pup, had a biopsy because she's got alopecia, and we're trying to figure out why she's going bald. We may end up with a Chinese crest, who knows? But she's had to wear this cone on her head because to prevent her from licking the stitches. And what I notice about her is when she's got that cone on, she acts different. I said, wouldn't it be wonderful, what if we had a cone around our neck that reminded us, be mindful of what you're thinking before it comes out of your mouth. So my request today is have fun Have fun with your life. Enjoy the flow and the serendipity of Spirit delivering all your heart's desires because it works. We just have to believe and have faith and exercise that faith muscle. So let's join together in saying our affirmation. Yes. Peace begins in the world I create within. Let's say that again. Peace begins in the world I create within. So moving into prayer, we close this talk out knowing that whatever was spoken falls on attentive listeners who pick one idea to implement this week, to wake up the observer in a new way, or to quicken their desires in a way that they recognize Spirit is just calling them to a greater expression of who they are. I know that this is natural and God-given. We are indeed magnificent, elegant, spiritual beings living life with all its ups and downs and challenges in a way that we are called to express more love and kindness to ourselves and to others. So knowing that this truth is ever expanding and deepening within each of us, I just let it be, let it flow, let it go, and know that love and law handles it. If any of this resonates with you, please join me in saying, and so it is. So from there, we move into sharing our abundance. I love that word because abundance means a lot more than just money, but we need money to run this center. Abundance is a sense of well-being and having plenty and enough. And when we are blessed and nourished spiritually, we give generously because this community matters. This teaching transforms lives. And I know that abundance is circulating all the time. So join with me as we say our affirmation of abundance. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And as always on the screen, there are several different ways that you can certainly donate to this center to help support our operations here. We can send a old-fashioned check in the mail to 400 West Franklin Street. We can text to give, and the phone number is on the screen. Or we can always go to our secure website at montereycsl.org and click the donate button. And I know that part of our circulation and sharing of abundance is that a portion of your contributions are tied back into the community and to our home office. So you'll be hearing about different ways that our ties support organizations. Reminder that Reverend Robert will be back next week talking more on our theme for the month. And I believe it's on the outer expression. Today was about our inner world. And I know that I always gain something from every Sunday's talk that I want to mull over, revisit, or practice. So continue to show up and expand your world and your universe and be nourished spiritually. Do we have a slide? Oh, we say bye-bye? Bye-bye Facebook people? Bye-bye YouTube users? If you're within the range of my voice, please join us again next Sunday. And as always, the videos will be up shortly from our talks. I know that if you go to YouTube, you'll find a longer history of our videos. I think on Facebook they go away after 90 days or something like that. Thank God. Let's see, what else?